Welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm your host, Kyptan, and with me today are Befuddled Panda,
Hi.
Yettibeats,
Hello, hello.
and Mr. Anderson.
Hello.
Today we're going to be discussing the final volume of Saga, chapters 37 through 54. This was quite the ride. I didn't know what I was agreeing to when I agreed to host this episode, but here I am, so I'll give it my best shot. Warning up front, Volume 8 is, well, spoilers for the final bit of Saga. Volume 8 is entirely about abortion. And so we're going to have to discuss that. We're going to do our best to remain tactful and not get into any issues of current politics, but there's no getting around this topic in this chapter. So we'll get there when we get there. We're going to try our best, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. With that out of the way, what was everybody's opinion of this last arc? Panda?
There was definitely a lot of stuff in there that I've forgotten, but going into it, I knew that at the end of Volume 9, Marco was going to die, or at least appear dead, because, we don't necessarily get to see what happens after. Sometimes people look dead and they aren't actually. So who knows? But he got punched through the chest, so I'm assuming
He's dead.
pretty dead.
He's gone.
With a mutilated metal hand.
Yes. And I didn't cry throughout reading the series. I didn't cry the first time I read it through, but the first time, like when I read about Marco dying, I was like gasping, like, oh my goodness, how can you kill off like one of your main characters? So, I mean, this time around I knew what was coming, so the impact wasn't as big. But then there were other things that I'd forgotten, and I was like, oh yeah, oh no. So Robot getting his head torn off is one of those.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeti, how about you? What were your general impressions of this final arc?
Generally, I would say I was kind of reading it for the second time, or third, maybe. It just really felt like an end. I know this is the 9th volume out of maybe 20 or something like that, but this definitely
18.
felt like an end. 18, an end of something. If this is the halfway point, that makes total sense. Like by the end of volume 9, I was like, there is like a complete arc for a lot of things. Not Hazel, but like it just felt like an ending point. And I was kind of exhausted, to be honest with you. I think we read these in 2 weeks ish, maybe, and I'm like spent. I'm like happy. Honestly, I'm like, I'm good. I can wait till volume 10 comes out in October. I think I was saying before we started that, volumes 7 and 8 felt very on the nose for, as you said at the top of this episode, of certain subjects. It was very non-subtle, I'd say. Not that Saga is ever subtle, but these were definitely not subtle. And then it led into volume 9, which just I generally felt kind of was like everything less, I guess, political, but more emotional.
I thought things were going fast before.
Yeah, volume 9 was like on speed. The amount of things that happened in like the last 3 volumes and to characters, it was almost hard to kind of react and like I don't want to be spoilers, but just to react to what happened, because one thing after the next, and then it culminated into the last page, and you're just like, it was just stunned silence. And to Panda's point, I cried every time I've read this series, and I'll talk about it when we get to volume 9. But there's so many things I love about that last volume. Yeah, I mean, I'm a stand for this series. You'll get no qualms from me out of this.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, how about you?
It felt like this book, these 3 volumes, kind of took a turn. Like, I'd never call Saga like a slapstick comedy or anything, but these did feel kind of like darker than what we'd been reading before. I don't know if it was just me or what, but it...
Or the pages of Black Panel.
We lost a lot of fun characters these 3. Some of which have been, discussed, but like Isabel.
Sweet Boy.
Oh yeah. He got made into a rug. That's sad.
Yep.
And we even lost characters who didn't die, but I'd say morally, they're gone. There's kind of no coming back.
And we lost the photographer. What's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Doff.
Loved him.
I think the photographer, what's his name, is an excellent character summary. So,
hey,
I always want to call both of them Upsham. It's I guess writers get their byline first, and it's
Yep.
stuck. They do it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Screw over the photographer husbands. As for myself, yeah, I really enjoyed this arc. I thought it was one of the strongest. After the initial 3, this final 3 was my favorite. I think that Volume 7, a little bit weak. Volume 8, very strong. Volume 9, incredibly strong.
Yeah. I think they felt darker to like what Mr. Anderson said because they were kind of, each one, like you said, was kind of centered on these main dark kind of themes. I don't know if you agree, but
The moment when Alana loses her son, that was, and they can no longer hear the heartbeat. That
Mm-hmm.
was so sad, so dark. Ugh. Well, we'll get there. Do we want to go in order?
sure.
Let's do it.
Okay. Let's go to the start of this tale, Fang, where our fugitives are hiding out on an abandoned moon,
Mhm.
or rogue planet.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was a planet or moon.
I'm still not entirely clear on the astronomy of this world.
Well, aren't
That's
they
what.
on the comet? Oh, you're talking about the very beginning.
Yeah, Fang is a comet. You're right about that, but
Yeah.
it seems to go through a number of systems at a speed which maybe comets wouldn't normally go. So there seem to be just like planets and stars scattered around the universe at a roughly equal ratio. It seems.
I was waiting.
Also, there's half planet things.
Yes. Also, there's half planet things.
I was waiting for a hard sci-fi kip to emerge into the world of.
Look, comets don't look like that, but if they did, fine. But they definitely don't travel that fast. Travel in this universe is something that just kind of happens, and I just kind of have to accept it. It's fine.
Yes.
I'll
Yes,
do
you
that.
do.
And they run out of fuel exactly when they need to run out of fuel.
Well, otherwise the plot couldn't happen. So
Yeah, otherwise the plot couldn't
Of
happen.
course.
Even though Fang is made of fuel, they still needed to go find fuel because they just like, have they never played Oregon Trail?
clearly not. They'd be much better prepared if they did.
Not sure that's in this world. When we get to Volume 8, they do make a pop culture reference that really. I do have a big complaint about that.
I'm really just wondering how you stretch like 2 weeks of refueling time into 6 months without someone getting annoyed about the budget before that point.
The budget? What are you talking
They're
about?
like energy expenditure budget.
Oh.
Because the whole reason they went to Fang was to refuel, but they didn't end up getting any fuel from the planet itself.
No, they did. They did.
Yeah.
They just kept using it for
Yeah.
amenities.
For
No,
their
it,
adopted family.
They got no net
feed- yeah,
amount
to
of
feed the
fuel from the
critters.
planet itself. Where they got it from was from another ship that they took it from.
I think okay.
Right.
Can we
And
back
in the
up just a
end,
sec? Can we just back up a sec?
yeah,
I think we do need to just like give a quick recap of Volume 7 before we dive into the details.
okay.
I can run down real quick. All right, so as Kip said, we're on Fang. It's like a war-torn comet that leaves a ton of refugees around because of the war. Robot, Alana, Marco, Hazel, Petri, and Isabel, they're all on the comet. And then on another portion, Sophie, Gwen, and Lion Cat are living with Gwen's wife, I suppose. She's married. And
Mhm.
Sophie kind of wants to be an apprentice to the will or just to be a freelancer. Our family, our main heroes, meet rodent refugees. They're very adorable. They also need fuel, but they end up staying, like Kip said, for 6 months. The Will is still fat, and he's looking for Lion Cat, going around looking. He wants his old partner back. And then on the search for fuel, we meet the March, who's this weird two-headed freelancer with very tiny legs. He murders Isabel, very sad. Marco then turns to violence again eventually and kills the March. And the planet is eventually sucked into this giant space baby. And all the critters are very religious and they say God will save us. And they actually die because of some finagling in another world. And then Alana, like Kip says, at the end has a miscarriage and it's horribly sad. That's essentially the breakdown, a terrible breakdown of Volume 7.
You hit all the major points. So I did find the wooden rocket ship like really interesting because we didn't it's not like they're like, okay, this is how this rocket ship works, and then like they lay it out with all the schematics and everything.
No.
Right? You find out pieces of how it works like as you read and like as it makes sense in the story to let you know how it works. And the first time I remember when I read like how the ship refuels, I was like, that is so cool. And it's because there was like one thing where I think it was like Marco saying, I'm gonna go check to make sure that the ship takes root.
Yep.
And I was like,
Yep.
oh, so this is
Mhm.
how it refuels. It literally just like grows roots down into the ground and then sucks up the energy. And my understanding is like why they were on Fang for 6 months is because the ship also like grows food for the people. And because of all the critters that they've adopted, they were going through the food so quickly that the ship didn't get to like store up enough fuel for the amount of energy it needed to blast off to
Right, because they
escape
kept
the
feeding
time
this
suck.
family.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were adorable. They're not goose, but it's close.
Miss
Close.
Goose, okay, like they paled in comparison to Goose. I mean, Curdy was like kind of cute, but also
Curdy was kind of cute.
psychotic.
I have a fun name for them. I call them the On Weasels.
Nice.
For some reason, I thought they were going to be like evil. I don't know why. Like when they popped up, I'm like, I can't trust these
Yes.
groups.
They're drawn to look threatening.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're drawn to look wily and mischievous and threatening and like perfidious.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you can't see, but yes.
I can see. But it's like it just like added to like I feel like I don't know with you guys I had like a sense of dread throughout this whole, I don't know if it was just how the area looked like it looked like ruined like where they lived all these broken down buildings and
Yep.
it just felt kind of an ugly place and I feel like that kind of permeated through my reading experience up until obviously bad things did happen.
I mean, critically, it's the war zone where Marco killed his first person.
Oh right, yeah, and he kills again.
Yep. And Marco continues his pattern of pacifism and aggression.
Goes back and forth, back and forth.
A pendulum.
Hey, that'll come. We'll talk about that again, definitely.
We will definitely talk about that again. But did you guys have a favorite moment in this volume? Because mine was definitely at the end with the miscarriage. I know that's weird to say, maybe, but
Maybe elaborate.
I thought that several panels of just completely black ink was a great way to end this volume. We've had cliffhangers before, but this one's really an emotional cliffhanger because we know what happened, but we don't know necessarily how things are going to unfurl out of it.
I think in our last episode, Mr. Anderson had said, well, I don't think we're actually going to see the little brother because in all of Hazel's narration up to that point, like she didn't mention having a little brother. And
Yep.
that was a correct prediction. Sort of.
Actually, I was sort of wrong.
Yeah,
but
you were.
Yes.
You were halfway.
We did see him.
Yep, did see him. What did you folks think about the March, this new freelancer?
He was fine. I liked him. I mean, he just visually looks interesting, but when you compare them, just comparing him or them, I should say, to
Is he a he?
oh yeah, they
I
have
think
two
they're
heads.
like
I thought it
Siamese
was
twins
one
or
of
something.
each.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of each.
Yeah.
They're siblings.
yeah,
But they are the
Yeah, but that's
the
just
March.
like a
Everyone
name.
is the.
Yeah, all the
Yes.
freelancers.
all the freelancers are
profession.
these. Yeah.
It's a title.
First of all, the body size just I couldn't get over it. It was too top heavy, and his legs were very small proportionally. Not a fan.
And those
But, like, every
heels that they're wearing.
I know. The outfit was great. And they had like a cute pet pig, as everyone has to have
Yeah.
a little
A sidekick.
sidekick. What do they say? That's
Yep.
like the midlife crisis for freelancers. They always get a sidekick. But like going forward in the next couple volumes, the killers that we meet there, so to speak, I found way more interesting than the March, or way more layered, I should say. Particularly one that encounters the Will. So in that regard, visually I liked him and he was intimidating, but I think he was kind of just a conduit for Marco to, like you said, pendulum back and forth between pacifism violence again. And that's just another reason why, a way for him to show his reasoning to see violence salt helps his family. But I loved his pet pig, or his partner.
Even compared to like the other freelancers, I was like, what was the Will's sibling?
The Brand.
Like we got about the same amount of time with the Brand, and everyone loves the Brand, and the March just I don't feel as that interesting.
In issue 39, there was a letter about the Brand saying, "Why would you kill another queer-coded character? Why would you kill another space lesbian?"
They do, yeah, that's a good point. Well, I'll let Panda or Mr. Anderson talk about this, but like, I guess the best part about the March for me was what he did to Isabel. Well, it's not a happy thing, but that was like
the best part.
Asking. Well, I thought that was the most impactful moment for me, particularly when she's talking just previously. Mr. Robot's like, "Why do you help these guys out? You know, you're practically like an indentured servant to them." She was like, "They showed me the universe." You know, I thought that was really sweet before she perishes.
Or, like right before she perished.
This was like
should have seen it coming.
A bad movie
Death Flag.
because she had a fight with Hazel, and then it was like, oh, I get to see the universe, and then she dies.
Yep, there were a number of death flags there. You can't have a fight with a protagonist and then go off on a deadly mission expecting to survive. You really just can't.
I think sometimes we think that the author kills off a character too soon, but I think in this case it was a good thing, just right. I really like Isabel and I would like to see her stick around, but I think her purpose for the plot and the characters was kind of running out of potential. Because there's not a whole ton that she can do, and eventually, like, Hazel is going to become her own person. Like, Isabel can't continue to be...
Completely opposite reaction to that.
Yeah?
I think Isabel was too powerful.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think Isabel was solving too many problems for Hazel and needed to be separated or killed.
Right, we knew that moment had to come at some point, and I think this was a good point where it is also like a turning point for Hazel, or at least like a growing point for Hazel, because she's now much older. She had her first kiss.
Ooh.
She, was going to become a big sister, and like she was growing up.
Yep.
And there's just so many other figures in her life that could fill that void and do step in, whether it's Petrie or Goose.
Yeah, Goose the babysitter.
or Squire.
Or Squire.
It's her new brother.
Yep. New brother. And now she has to be the babysitter.
That's right.
That was sad.
Which part?
You have to be way more specific than that.
When she realized that she was going to have to be the babysitter to her new baby brother, now that Isabel was gone, and her grandmother was gone. Oof.
Yeah, I like that sense of panic she had that a child, as an older sibling, you always kind of do have, where you're kind of like, I'm not ready for that. What? I have to do what? Like just that hint of responsibility, is kind of a panic-inducing sometimes.
Yep.
As an aside, so myself, I am an older sibling. Mr. Anderson is also an older sibling.
Me too.
You're also an older sibling, Yeti?
Oldest of 3. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oldest of 4.
We're all older siblings.
We're all Hazels today. Wow.
My childhood is much happier than Hazel's.
I don't know about you, but when I had to babysit my younger brother, my parents, we didn't have a ton of money when we were growing up. They would pay me in pennies. Like 5 pennies for a session of babysitting. And I would collect those pennies, and when I had enough, I would trade them in for like a nickel and a dime, and I would save up that money for the Scholastic Book Fair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was my babysitting gig.
That's a lot of pennies.
Well, because okay, if you do this chore, we'll give you some pennies. So babysitting, other stuff. Yeah.
You get what you can get.
Mm-hmm.
What could you afford? One Ronald Dahl book, or?
A bookmark. I could afford a bookmark. 25 cents.
Speaking of childhoods, Gwendolyn and Marco, maybe they worked once. How do you think they would work together now?
Nope.
As a couple, like if their lives in a different universe, they were together.
Well, we're watching Marco have his like pacifism violence thing on an individual personal level. Look at the parallel arc we're seeing with Gwendolyn, who stayed home at Wreath.
Right.
What is she determining the lives of? Millions of people and planets. And just kind of cavalierly cooperating with the enemy in order to destroy a planet full of refugees. Like, yeah, they evacuated a bunch of them, but they clearly didn't get all of them.
Yeah, I don't think they would have made it long term. I did like that part though. That planet or the comet Fang would have survived if it wasn't for that.
Mhm.
They would have went straight through the time suck safely if it wasn't literally for Gwendolyn.
The baby wouldn't have vomited black liquid all over the comet. Yeah. What was the point of that? It was just to get rid of a battlefield, right? Oh, and blame the last rebellion.
My understanding is like it's kind of twofold. One, it was like becoming too costly. Both sides, right? They kept losing soldiers there. Like nobody was winning. And second, it was like Fang is such a valuable fuel resource. They didn't want it to end up in their enemy's hands. So it's kind of like nobody can have it, you know?
Okay.
Let's just destroy it.
The peril of living in a place with large abundance of natural resources and little government.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. Poor Fang. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about in Volume 7? Like, I don't know, Prince Robot almost committing suicide?
Prince Robot committing suicide, but also admitting that he's in love with Alana?
Yep.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Yep.
Like, what?
Prince Robot has had a lot of inappropriate sexual feelings that his faceplate displays.
Thank God I'm not a robot. I would, my face.
Thank God, right?
A lot of stuff would pop up there. Can I read some of my favorite Prince Robot quotes from this volume? He had me dying. Some are kind of. There's three of them.
Who has the beep button ready?
Yeah, whoever. Kip, you're editing this.
I'm editing, so.
All right, first one. Isabel says, "No offense, but Queen Robot seems like a CUN." And Prince Robot says, "A beheadable yet fair assessment." The next one. "Thanks to your employees, my only son has been left in the care of a mentally deficient CO lad for far too long." I enjoyed that one. And then as he's walking out of the ship...
How dare he?
I know, yeah. Just his distaste for Goose is heartwarming, weirdly. And then lastly, he's talking about something, and then he says, "Because it seems to me your immaterial queen of a pet continues to serve precisely zero purpose." Talking about Isabel. Thought that was a very visual way to talk about it. So I don't know. I couldn't. Every time he said one of those, it was just like his sass is unrivaled.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I call it an arc, but he has quite a story in these 3 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a lot going on.
I'd argue he has an arc, but
I'd argue he has a truncated arc, which is an arc.
Yeah. Quick notes I noticed. I thought there was a cool parallel that like Hazel was telling Curdy, her deceased boyfriend, that heaven is a lie, while Gwen tells Sophie that hell is real. Thought those were cool, kind of like back and forths. And then I don't know, just with Marco, we'll talk more about it, but him and violence, but specifically he takes a life, the march, and whether it's fate or whatever, a life is taken away from him, his unborn child, which I don't think that's an accident by the author. But that's all I've got for Volume 7.
And yeah, death of Sweet Boy as well in Chapter 42.
And turned into a rug. I don't know if that's the next volume.
Yep.
Devastating.
That's later.
One.
Oh, sorry. Still scarred.
Kip,
Yes.
in the last episode, you had asked about what is the ratio of dicks to volumes. Remember that?
And it seems like it's at least one good one per volume.
One good one per. Is it per volume?
I think so.
Or per like episode that we're doing?
Well, Prince Robots was this one.
Yep.
A full vertical height and really zoomed in, just really fully framed by the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It woke me up. Shot of espresso.
You know what? If I had to come up with some words for it, I might call it regal. I might.
Well, they didn't have any like dragons or giants these volumes, so they needed something else to keep people reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they went for a really different form.
There was a couple pathetic shots of the Will and his private parts, but nice contrast to Robot's, as you say, regal member.
Yep. I really enjoyed Petrichor in this volume. She's like this conflicting character where not just, her identity, but like her disdain for Alana because Alana is, a Landfallian. She's the enemy.
Yes.
Right? But her wanting to protect Marco, like, Marco is like, I'm gonna go, and Petrichor's like, no, I will go. Or like, for some reason, like, she really wanted to go on this really like dangerous mission to try to find fuel, when like Sir Robot was like, I'm gonna go, and Petrichor's like, no, and I think she really does care about offspring, because like she knows that Sir Robot's got a son.
Yep.
Like Marco's got Hazel, and I don't know if they also kind of have a death wish here, but
I don't think so. I definitely don't accuse Petrichor of having a death wish.
okay.
That's mostly reserved for the Will.
Which
And
we
Robot.
kind of see why, but yeah.
Yeah, well, Robot's going through something at the moment. Robot just wants an easy out. Robot wants to find some way where they can just lay back and have a lot of sex and not do anything. And apparently Sextillion kicked him out, so he's got to try and find somewhere else where he can laze about the universe. Unless it's related to his son Squire, in which case Robot finally has some sort of motivation. But like, trapped in a ship with Alana and family, Robot goes a little crazy.
Maybe just a little.
And gets spied on by small children during his dreams.
That is like, can you imagine like if everything
If
you're
every dream I
thinking-
had was on my face.
Oh my goodness.
No, I can't imagine. I don't want to.
I can imagine not having sleepovers ever again.
And then the last thing for me is the Will getting like rejected by Lion Cat. His sidekick
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
chose
yeah.
Sophie.
that was brutal.
Yeah. I think that
Good
was
call.
like the kind of nail in the coffin for the Will, because like, all right, I am a piece of crap, Even my sidekick of many years, Lion Cat, has said, I would rather be with Sophie than you. And then the Will goes on this rampage to find Robot and Marco's family.
Yeah, it highlights to me I think we brought it up last episode, but the two violent people in the series, well, it was a lot more than two, but Marco and the Will, arguably the two most violent people, and what having a family does for one, where at least he's still violent, Marco, but he's fighting it, and what pushing away a family does to the other person, and just the direction his life goes after that. I think that's a cool contrast between those two. It's not the last time those two will be in a sentence together, but yeah, that was brutal. Lion Cat slunked away.
Yep.
And Sophie too. I mean, she denied him as well after leading us to believe she wanted to be an apprentice. She denied coming along with him.
Yeah, what do we think of Sophie and her life path, wanting to become a freelancer?
Don't feel great about it.
She's a very traumatized kid.
Yeah, I don't have hope for her. I really. They didn't get much screen time, but I'm worried for her going forward.
I'm very worried for Sophie as well going forward.
You think Sophie and Hazel will meet?
I think they're
Definitely.
going to meet under bad circumstances. I think Sophie might be tracking down Hazel, trying to finish the last job or something.
Yikes.
Hazel kills the Will or something.
Yep,
Or Lana or something.
maybe.
She goes out for revenge.
Hazel kills the Will while Sophie is like running towards him and watches him disintegrate in a cloud of acid. Yeah, that could be a thing.
You seem to have put some thought into this.
Yeah.
Saga suggests this to my mind, the way that it's ripping characters apart
Sure is.
and giving Hazel's significantly more destructive abilities. Okay, let's move
Speaking
on to
of-
Volume 8.
Yeah.
So Alana has just had her miscarriage and discovers that she has magical powers courtesy of her now dead child who's inside of her. She calls herself a coffin. Do you have a recap for this, Yeti?
Yeah, another terrible one. I can run it down if you want.
Run it down.
Okay. The gang, they escape Fang. They go to Abortion Town. It's like a wild, wild west type of town. They even have cowboy clothes. They're riding colored zebras. And as you said, Alana can now create her imaginary son with this new power. Since her unborn child is inside her, she has these powers. He hangs around and bonds with Hazel. Alana and Marco go to a shady wolf abortion doctor. There's pro-life cowboy horse people. Robot spares them. And then Robot and Petrie have a romance together. And then the Will, we find, is tortured by Lanth, the wife of someone he killed earlier.
I think it's Ianthe.
Oh, Ianthe. It's not an L? Okay.
No, I think it's an I.
Okay. Tortured by Ianthe. Goose, we find, is raising Squire with Doff and Upshur. And at the end, after the procedure, we'll call it, by the disgusting wolf creature, who was actually very nice, Squire and Hazel meet, and everyone reunites at this. Seems like a happy ending at the end.
Yeah.
That's all I really had for.
It's interesting that you called the wolf creature disgusting, because I agree that it was also a case of misleading initial splash art, which came into place with the on weasels beforehand as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make that stick. I'm going to make that a thing. And then once you meet this terrifying wolf creature, who apparently doesn't really use gloves when operating the first time, but does the second, a little confusing there. Turns out to be not so bad. Turns out to be a very rational explainer of their morals and ideology.
Yes. And again, just a general warning, this portion is heavily going to be about abortion.
We're going to try and walk on some eggshells here, but it needs to be talked about.
But I will say, I do think the author, Brian K. Vaughan, did really try to show kind of both sides as not particularly wrong or right, if that makes sense. Like you said, I think that wolf doctor tried to explain their views and things like that, why they did it for Alana and why they did it for this other patient who wasn't an unborn child. Like, I think the author really put in circumstances that this wasn't an unsettled volume, obviously. I think he really tried to take care of that. Even the horse, pro-life, half-horse people, I think a doctor said they should have an abortion because their son wasn't going to make it. And they decided to have him, and they did make it. So that filtered their view of why they're pro-life. Does that make sense? Where I think they could have just made them more evil and mustache twirling. I don't think they did that, though.
Saga is definitely a character-focused tale, and so it relays its morals and messages through individual stories of people that it tries to build out. I think it does a pretty good job for, first off, being a graphic novel with a very limited word count in which to do things, and Fiona really is able to pull together a lot of emotions and graphical descriptions of events in her art. But when you're talking about something as complicated as the morals of abortion, you're really running into problems with economy of word count. And I think Brian K. Vaughan does a very good job with not getting preachy, but just showing stories.
Agreed.
And you kind of talked about it, Kip, so with the end wife, which is what this wolf. So this creature, it's like a wolf-looking creature. It looks super tired and has like 6 boobs or nipples hanging down. And then we see it with bloody hands. Like when we first meet it looks like a monster just killed someone. But I think that specific image is like, I think that's on purpose, not just for the characters to be freaked out, but to think like what they do is an evil thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not to get too political, but I think
they're
saying
called
that.
monsters, literal monsters.
They are.
Right.
And there's that contrast of seeing her pups. Like she's a mother, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. She values motherhood.
Yep. And a kind of implied cannibalism, which is kind of monstrous.
I didn't think it was cannibalism. Okay. Obviously, it's like left fairly vague, but kind of implied that maybe because the other patient that she had just worked on was like a giant elephant-looking creature.
Yep.
It was, yeah.
I don't know if she had fed the baby to her pups,
I mean, is that
I
not
see.
cannibalism?
but that's not cannibalism. They're not of the same species.
No, but they're still like sentient.
Is that what cannibalism means?
I'd say
I
it's
don't
one
think
of the
we need to look up
definitions.
the dictionary definition to know that it's a little disturbing.
True. Yes.
Yeah, because if I ate a newborn elephant, it's not cannibalism.
No,
never
but
do
only
that.
because we've decided that
Right.
humans are some sort of separate part of the animal kingdom, and Saga
Of course.
world doesn't seem to show that.
There aren't really any humans in Saga, right?
I know. That's true.
I don't think there are
Listen.
any humans, actually, now that I think about it.
Like I
Well,
said,
what's
Saga
the
doesn't
will?
really show a human dichotomy.
Oh, what
Well,
is
the
the
will.
will?
I would say the will. The will or the
Okay,
brand.
maybe.
Yep.
It's the closest we have, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not Prince Robot.
God, no.
Maybe that's the future of human evolution. We're all going to put TVs in our heads.
Maybe.
We're not that
Maybe.
far off.
And I did like how there were at least 3 separate jurisdictions of abortion law. There was Landfallian, there was Wreath, which seemed like it would have been a good place to go to if they wouldn't have been immediately arrested on site there.
Hmm.
It seems like they would have preferred maybe that legal code, but instead they had to go to this back alley monster
Hmm.
who may or may not eat unborn children.
Can we talk a moment about... Sorry, this is like a hard right turn.
Sometimes those are needed.
Petrichor and the spell that she was casting?
Oh boy.
When you're reading that part, right, it's all very dramatic because Marco almost like falls off the train and he was saved, and then it cuts to Petrichor, who is like looking at this photo of somebody she loves, who
I forgot there was
who's
a
like,
train job.
oh yeah, they had to jump onto a train
Wild
to
Wild
get to.
West.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know. Whom like Petrichor, it seemed like the person either like left her, like broke up with her, or died. I don't know which one. But then you're like, okay, what kind of spell is she going to be casting? And then literally it's like, please send me someone to,
You know what?
yeah.
So someone
And I
F,
suppose it
and then the universe provides.
worked.
So that's some serious spellcasting there.
Yup.
That had the same vibes for high school Yettibeats when he would pray to God to get him a girlfriend. It was kind of like the same. I never had my robot come, but it's fine.
I've done a lot of prayers for snow. A lot of dramatic snow dances.
Oh yeah, that's a thing
Yep, that's a thing. Totally a thing.
for skiers and snowboarders.
For Christmas?
My high school actually had a ceremony where we would take the youngest freshman on the ski team and we would climb to the top of the nearby mountain, and like there's a rock face on the edge of a cliff, and we would put them on the rock and cover them in snow and then pray for snow.
Oh my goodness. Did it work?
I mean, there was often not even enough snow to cover the freshmen in snow. But it was a prayer for a good season of snow.
Yeah, that is very much a thing here in Seattle. I've never been though.
You
So I
also
can't tell
have
you.
do snow sacrifices?
I wouldn't call them sacrifices. There are rituals, okay? But I've never been, so I can't tell you like what exactly they do.
My family did a snow dance one time, and we got like 3 feet of snow the next day. That one
Wow.
felt great.
Wow.
The ski resort was like on the edge of not having enough snow to cover the ground, and then
Oh,
boom,
wow.
3 feet of fresh powder. It was great. I think we were actually on the local news doing our snow dance.
They caught you in the act?
They caught us in the act. Look, it's a very small town. They didn't have anything else going on. It's just the ski resort. They just send their camera crew around the ski resort and they film stuff, and hey, sometimes it makes TV.
Did you guys like that romance choice though? I thought about it like in the previous volumes, but I kind of brushed it off. Like I
Okay,
feel like there
is
were
it a
some
romance?
signs, but it's a flick. Well, Prince Robot had love in his eyes. I don't know. I would say so. I think they're both fulfilling needs for each other. I think that Petri is so filled with hate. I thought it was nice that they could come together, even because they both have ingrained hate for each other just because of what the wars and stuff like that. I thought it was nice to show that they could both change and come together over. Well, I'm not sure how they were arguing.
They
before they kissed.
bonded over romance
Yeah.
novels because they were both
That's true.
reading
Yeah.
heist books, and they're like, "You're reading that trash too."
Heist does it again. This man.
He
He brings a
does.
lot of people together.
I gotta get me one of these books.
Heist the Matchmaker.
We need to read more romance novels in Green Team.
Sign me up.
That's how I. That's how I feel when I see a girl reading a Robin Hood book on the bus or the train.
Ooh.
He's still my beating heart.
I used to ride the subway a lot, and I definitely would be like, ooh, that person looks interesting. They're like reading some Ian Banks over there.
That person's reading Saga and they're at the dragon penis part.
I definitely, when I see people reading in public, I am one of those people who's like trying to figure out what they're reading and secretly judging them based on that.
It's like they're at a Crown of Swords. Ooh, they got this coming up. Or like, wait, they're at a Crown of Swords in 2017? What are they doing?
See, this is where e-readers like take away that enjoyment from me because I can't tell what they're reading, which is probably intentional on their part.
For some of them, yeah.
Mhm.
Would you buy a physical Chuck Tingle novel? Have you seen the covers?
Yeah.
His covers are like bizarre too, though.
They are cheap Photoshop jobs, but yes.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a complete tangent. So, what are we talking about in Volume 8?
Romance novel.
Yeah.
We're talking about Hazel singing a lullaby that she learned from Izzy to her unborn baby brother, who's only a force projection. Not even a force projection, just a possible future forecasting spell.
Right.
It'll be a miracle if Hazel grows up and doesn't have to go to therapy. The amount
Are
of
you kidding me?
She already needs to go to therapy.
And you keep saying
but
children are
just-
resilient. Children are resilient.
I know, but man, to see your possible brother as a force ghost and then slide away after bonding with him, tough look for her.
Maybe at the end of this whole series, it's revealed that all these things that we're reading is Hazel's therapy sessions. Like she is relaying her life story to a therapist.
I'd buy that.
I don't know. I view it more in like the Cloud Atlas thing where it's like a record being left behind for fellow revolutionaries.
Perhaps.
I liked her, even though I talked about this volume 7, what Hazel says, or someone says, alone a person suffers and dies, but together a family thrives. And I was like, that's Hazel's family compared to the Will. Again, that just keeps being brought up where it's like people alone he just gets worse and worse. He's strapped naked to a torture chamber.
Yeah, that was another dick that we got.
More pathetic compared to Prince Rubens.
More
he
pathetic.
wasn't drawn to present himself, really. It was just...
Not the same scale.
Yeah.
Also, I think that was maybe technically the very start of Volume 9.
Oh, man. Why do I keep jumping ahead?
But let's get back to him because issue 47 is actually where we get Sweet Boy as a rug. How did that make you feel the first time you saw that and recognized it?
Rest in peace, Sweet Boy.
I mean, it was sad. It was his sibling's partner that he adopted when he became even more evil the first time.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. It's like the last remnant of his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Speaking of remnants of childhood, how did you like these magical VCR trips into the Will's past? And what does this now make you think about the Will as a character and with his own trauma?
He's definitely very unhinged at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Not that he was well hinged before, but...
Now he's got multiple hallucinations at the same time.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show that trauma. We've talked. I feel like me and Kip have talked about this so many times between Hob and now Saga. But if you have trauma in the past with your family, that stuff bleeds into your future and your present. It's happening with Prince Robot, abuse with his family, Marco obviously with his family, and now with the Will. It all leads into violent tendencies, and it leads into them repeating those actions in one sense or another. I mean, this stuff is all, it's all related. And I wasn't shocked when I saw that kind of stuff happen, that his dad was abusive, especially towards his sister. It wasn't shocking. Did it make him more sympathetic? At that point in time, yes. Did it last? No.
I'm just very curious if, one, Brian K. Vaughan had a very traumatic childhood, and second, is he a father? Because what you're saying, there are so many characters in this series that have very depressing pasts, and, growing up, they had to deal with a lot. And from a parent's perspective, you then have, Marco's parents, and then you have Marco and Alana, you have Sir Robot, these parental figures. At least with Marco and Alana, they're really trying not to pass on how effed up they are to their child, but they're in circumstances that they can't control, and Hazel has to experience all of these traumatic things despite their best efforts. So it's
Juan has a wife and 2 kids.
okay, I kind of want to know what Brian is thinking when he's writing these characters from the parental view and from the kids' view, and then also how his kids are doing.
I know. Yeah. I would have bet any amount of money he was a father, especially after reading Volume 9. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he
Yeah.
has experience with fatherhood. But
And has a dog named Hamburger.
Aww. Is
are you
it a
looking at
wiener
a picture
dog?
of it? Yeah. What kind?
It's a dachshund.
Oh, good call, Panda. Look at you. Nailed it.
Yeah. Hamburger selects some of the letters for the end of the issues.
Nice.
It selects it.
Yep.
I thought that there was a theme kind of choosing your family. Kind of like how Marco and everyone, they're choosing Prince Robot and Squire to be. It's not always blood relations that's your family. I mean, going forward in the story, the family we have are all unrelated. Squire, she chooses him as a new brother, so to speak. I do think it was kind of matched up with choosing to have an abortion stuff, but maybe just vaguely. But I do think that's an ongoing theme, is that you can choose who you want in your life and to be close to and to stick up for, things like that.
Yeah, there's a very big implication of the agency of choice in constructing your family.
Mm-hmm.
Who is and isn't your family is something that you get to decide as an individual person. Prince Robot has forsaken his parents and has focused on just Squire. Alana and Marco have found each other across the divide of a war and have made a daughter that they're willing to abandon all their other family for. The grandparents originally came in. And then there's people like Goose and Yuma and other members of the troupe and Isabel and people who have no direct biological connection but have become part of this family with Hazel as the nucleus.
Yes. As opposed to, again, the one person who over and over again rejects any type of family and goes down a dark path because of it in the will.
Yep. It's not the only one who does that, but yes.
Yeah.
That kind of brings up not exactly a criticism, but kind of from a different lens for people who like being alone, who like not having attachments, and they're content with just being with themselves. I don't think they would be very represented in this series. The closest would be Goose, who was specifically saying, well, I've been alone, I've been on my own for years and I'm fine. I mean, he still has Friendo, at least.
Yeah, he had Friendo. A little hypocritical.
For how long Frendo's around for.
Is Friendo a person?
Frendo's kind of just there.
Goose says he was going to kill and slaughter Friendo to eat, so I'm pretty sure Friendo is not a person.
That was a last resort, okay?
I mean, if I said that as a last resort, I was going to kill and slaughter you.
That would
Is
be
that-
called cannibalism, Kip, okay? But yeah, I mean, like, the themes in here, the characters, like, they're very much like, you find strength and comfort in others, but sometimes you kind of just want to be on your own. And I need to pause here because my computer is running out of battery and I need to plug it in. I'm back.
Okay, we just got done talking about all the poop monsters.
Ugh. I think that was just like, let's throw in something fun. Like, there's not a whole ton of consequences there.
Nope. It was an excuse for Alana to show magic.
Yeah.
Which
was
worked.
really cool.
It was pretty cool. It's definitely the weirdest side effect of a miscarriage that I've seen in fantasy.
Mm.
And the resultant worshipping of Alana by Petrichor is also unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was kind of cool, though. In like just a world building sense that their people kind of just worship those who've lost someone.
I thought that was really cool because it's acknowledging and respecting people who have gone through that experience.
Yeah. In her narration, Hazel says that miscarriages don't get funerals.
Yeah.
That's a sad, true fact. I know several people in my life who have had miscarriages and have just not even wanted to talk about them. Like they were trying for kids, they had miscarriages, and it took them a couple tries, and those were very, very painful, and they don't want to bring it up.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody wants to bring it up around them either, you know? And like,
No,
as you said,
no.
Panda, there's no acknowledgement of it happening, whether anyone wants it or not. Whereas in this society, it's like something that always makes them a warrior. So not a warrior, but like admired, so to speak, that have gone through something like that.
Sacred.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sacred.
Yeah. Shall we move on to volume 9?
Can I bring one thing up I didn't like in this volume?
Sure.
So there's a line in here where I think Hazel brings up the topic of fidget spinners.
Yes.
Yes, she does.
Okay, can I bring
And
up
I'm
something
pretty
then?
sure. Yeah, go ahead.
In the later issues, Brian K. Vaughan brings up that he has never, ever gotten more letters complaining about something than when he put a fidget spinner in.
It took me out. I was like,
Yep.
there's fidget spinners in this world? It's
Not
just-
when he had a
those-
dragon penis, not when he had... Nope, fidget spinners.
Look, there are some bridges that are just too far to cross, okay? It's-
in this massive world, fidget spinners was just way too far.
Did he lose a bet or something? Like, or was this on a dare? It felt so out of place.
I think it was late at night, and he was like, this is funny. And then that made it through somehow.
Well, he's promised never to do it again, so...
There'll be no TikTok shout-outs or anything else.
That's how you apologize. You apologize for something, you promise never to do it again.
There you
And then you don't. And so far, he hasn't.
go.
Okay, now let's get to Hurry Up Slave Boy in Volume 9. Yeti, you got a synopsis?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yep. All right. Let's see. Everyone is now in a hideaway paradise. Seems like Doff and Upsher's hideaway that's on this awesome island. They're all swimming, playing chicken with each other, goose and Hawaiian shirts. The reporters say they can change the identity and the species of Robot, Petrie, and Squire for Robot's big story he has for them. Ianthe is now hunting Marco, with Will as her chained up prisoner, naked also. And mostly it all just takes place on this island, and Marco and Alana have their sweet moments, dates in the water. Petrie and Hazel have nice conversations. The reporters together, Goose and Squire, and then I just say it all goes to hell. Ianthe kills Doff, Upsher shoots Ianthe, Will rips the robot's head off, and at the very end, Will kills Marco.
Okay, I just have to ask. When you first saw the Ianthe character, like, masked, who did you think it was?
I had no clue. I couldn't remember at all.
That was another robot.
So did I. Yeah. And then, like, when they revealed themselves, right? Like,
Yep.
that was
A little
such a shock.
underwhelming. I didn't.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
a little
I was like,
underwhelming. Yep.
One, she was ugly, and I was like, who is this? And then I had no clue. But I did like going forward. I really liked her. Like that's why I said with the march, I was like, I really ended up liking Ianthe for multiple things. One, she saved Squire, which kind of gives me one. I don't think she's dead for the first point. I did mark that down. I said there's only 3 deaths. I don't think she's actually dead, and I think she's going to have she'll be a good guy at the end. But so I thought
You
there's
think
more depth
Ianthe is
to her
going to
than-
turn good?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
I don't think. Do you guys think she's dead? I don't think so.
She
I
kind
think
of
she
is
is.
I don't know. I don't know.
Last we see her, she's saying "kill me, kill me," and Upshur
Mhm.
doesn't. Well, we'll see. I don't know. I haven't read any of Volume 10.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe you're right.
I don't think Alana is dead. If Alana is dead, then I will be upset.
But
I don't think she's
no
dead.
way.
Oh.
She just got her wing shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Prince Robot is definitely dead. I saw that man's head be ripped from his body, or his TV head ripped from his body. Did you remember that? Did you say, Panda, you forgot?
I totally
forgot
forgot.
he died. Me too.
That was a brutal ripping.
Is there a
Really?
non-brutal way to?
In less detail, and because that was a full screen ripping, and that was you could see every cable, you could see every piece of strain, every drop of coolant, every another sexually fluid character bites the dust.
I know. I was thinking that when you brought it up. I'm like, man, they drop like flies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we just talk about the Marco stuff? Because I feel like I can't keep it in
Sure.
anymore.
Let's talk about the Marco stuff. We can talk about his cycle of anger and violence and pacifism now that it's over. His last impulse was to not kill a deadly enemy, and it finally ended up coming around and killing him.
Yeah.
We got these this treatise on apologies, but Marco, do you think he has to apologize for being who he is and not being able to kill people sometimes?
I don't think he has to apologize for who he is. I think he always strived to be better. And I think he always failed at it until this time. I mean, I think he succeeded in the end. He protected his family without taking a life. He tackled the will. He did not kill the will. They're safely out of distance. And I think going forward, I have no proof of this because there's 9 more issues to come. I think in the bigger scheme of things, him sparing the Will's life is going to, in the end up protecting Hazel in some way or fashion. I think that choice that he made was more than just him overcoming his, I wouldn't say lust for violence, but his always choice to use violence. I think in the end that's going to be the right choice, even though he'll never live to see it. But there's just a lot of things. He uses a shield to fight the Will, a defensive weapon compared to the Will's lance, which is an offensive weapon. You know, everything about that was screaming his choice to kind of abolish violence, even in the end. Although it was funny that he dies by the weapon he created when he melted the Will's hand into some sort of drill-like shape. Again, he did that. But,
in the previous episodes where Marco went violent, right? He was protecting somebody else. But in this case, with the Will, once he realized his family was safe from the Will because they blasted off, the only person he would be saving would be himself, and that's when he was like, I can't.
I don't fully understand the conception of just because the Will is in a spaceship off the planet doesn't mean he can't come right back and kill the rest of the family.
Well, I mean, the family could have escaped as well on their rocket ship, but there was distance.
There's a minute of distance.
I do. I see what you're saying, Kip. And I thought about that too. I was like, I guess he could go back, but at least they're aware of it now. And Marco's. But I think the biggest point for Marco was that he knows that, like we've been saying, violence just leads to a cycle of more violence. And I think he thought by killing the Will, for whatever reason, something would happen and Hazel would be in more danger. Whether that's the Will's dead, and like we were saying, Sophie now is coming out to revenge and come to kill Marco. This whole series of Saga is just saying violence is just this endless cycle, whether it's war or people out for revenge, like Ianthe. She's out for revenge against the Will because of what he did. Killing just creates more violence in whatever fashion. And I think in that moment, when he looked at that planet, saw him sailing away, I think he thought this was the best way to protect Hazel. Maybe subconsciously knew he probably wouldn't be a part of it. I don't think he knew that he was about to get stabbed through the heart right then, but
No,
the
I don't think
stomach.
he knew he was going to get stabbed.
But I think that's the bigger thing, more so than them being safe. I think he just knew by killing the will. I think he finally realized, or decided, it's just going to create more problems.
Do you think it would have actually begotten more violence?
Yeah.
You think that it would have maybe spurred Sophie on to continue the cycle?
Sophie, even Gwendolyn. I mean, she might say
Or
she doesn't
Gwen?
have feelings for. Yeah, I mean, someone, maybe the agent, the agent
The agent who fired him.
comes. Yeah, but I don't know. But I think throughout the series, I mean, we just see the proof. There's just always someone around here who
The
is
will
trying
had
to
cut a
avenge.
lot of his threads.
But Marco doesn't know that. To be fair,
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think, but that's what I got from the moral of Marco's decision.
Mr. Anderson, you've been quiet. What do you think about Marco's cycle?
I don't know. I don't have as many strong opinions as you two seem to have. I mean, it's like, it's kind of been his thing these past 9 volumes as he goes this cycle, like you've been saying. He says no to violence, something happens, he does something, and then there's normally very quickly some repercussion from that. He didn't kill anyone before his fight with Will, right?
Not in that volume.
Yeah.
He killed the March.
Yeah, yeah. I meant like nothing immediately, like right before his death, but
Yep. He'd attempted to apologize for his inability to kill people to protect their safety before, to Alana mostly. But do you think there are some apologies that you just can't hold people to if it's contrary to their nature? Are there some apologies that you just shouldn't even accept in the first case because you know that the person, like, for the person to behave otherwise would just be so against their nature?
I wonder if Alana never really saw that in Marco. I don't know if that's one of the problems here. She never saw the danger behind him or whatever. I think back to like when Goose says something like, "But that guy, he scares me," or something like that.
Yeah, it always felt more internal with Marco. I mean, he would voice it to Alana, obviously, because they talk about it. It never felt like they struggled together too much. Well, I guess they did, but I don't know. The violence thing always felt like it was a demon within him that he was constantly trying to. He took it upon himself to try to overcome.
I don't know. They fought about it a few times.
Yeah, I don't know. I just cried at that part. I don't know what to tell you. I like how they used the first quote from the first volume where she's like, "My name is Hazel. I started out as an idea," with the flashback of him talking to her on the beach in the small moment. I thought it was beautiful, honestly.
So that beach scene, this is where I'm gonna bring up Fast and Furious. Okay. If you have seen Furious 7,
Nope.
and you know what scene I'm talking about, but like this was
Absolutely.
very reminiscent of that, which that film had come out in 2015, and this would have come out after. I wonder if I don't know if Brian Capon is a Fast and Furious fan, but anyway, he could have drawn inspiration from that. I could just hear the song by Charlie Puth in my head as I was reading those panels for the beach scene. Yeah, that was touching.
Write him a letter. See if that was the inspiration.
Maybe Hamburger will pick it to be at the end of the next volume.
Yeah. I think with Marco too, I think he always tried to look like with that conversation on the beach. He was telling Hazel just to be kind. That's what he just wants for her, and to look in the good in people. And I do think he generally did try to do that for the most part.
They took care of the on-weasels.
Yeah. They really did. Him the on-weasels. I think that was a beautiful sentiment. As like you were asking, if is Brian K. Vaughan a father? I mean, after that scene, I was like, that guy has to be a father. I mean, this scene hit me before I was like a stepdad, but anyone who has kids, I mean, that's like one of your biggest things is you want them to be okay. God forbid you're not around forever, obviously. And that scene was just so powerful for those reasons where you just the basics, like just be kind, be open to everyone you meet, don't have prejudices, and the rest will hopefully fall in place. The world's a tough place, but with those like core tenets, you'll be okay. And even when she said she didn't want to have kids,
Right.
Hope you're not mad, it was really sweet. She's just, I want to create stuff. And as a parent, it's, a good parent. You're just like, that's fine. We just want you to be okay. I don't know. The way he framed that with the flashback into him just staring dead in the hole in his chest was stuff.
Yeah.
It was good stuff. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that was a powerful moment.
What did you guys think of the reporters in this volume? Our favorite independent reporters who are actually a gay couple, who are hiding their identity, who got threatened with being outed, who got one of their sources murdered, and we're going to transubstantiate their other sources, Robot, Petrichor, and Squire, into new fish people bodies. They're from Jetsam. Are they Jetsamians?
They're Flotsam. I've never been a huge fan of these reporters. They've struck me as kind of there.
Just kind of there.
Yeah.
I thought that before these 3 volumes. I actually thought they took like the biggest leap for me as far as like interesting characters, and I'm actually excited for Upshur. He's this one who's still alive, right? To kind of join that family and have more of an impact, especially since he's in mourning. I mean, you have a lot of people in mourning. Him, Alana, Petri, all together. But I think he's going to play an important part in Hazel's development going forward. I was more invested in them than I was, as Mr. Anderson said, in the earlier volumes. I just wanted to get back to other stuff, but I really enjoyed having them involved with the family.
I like the quote, "You can be a writer or a pacifist, but not both."
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Yeah, I agree. Once they were becoming part of the fold, they were more interesting, and I didn't dislike them as much. I think one of the reasons why I really disliked them before was I was so protective of this family unit, and they were a threat to them. And I was like, you get out of here.
Right.
But now in this volume, they were actually helping to protect the family unit. Yeah. What?
You don't think so? Because they wanted
I don't
to tell
think
their
they were
story?
helping to protect the family unit. I think that they were trying to get their story out there, and they were trying to ignore the larger political conversation that the story was happening within.
I mean,
and that ignorance of the actual independence of their newspaper and that their actual ability to isolate people and protect them was fatally flawed.
I'm not talking about necessarily their entire arc and portion in this volume, but at the end, their acts were to protect that family unit.
But I think it's only because of their acts that they were able to be found in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Upshur, I think it was Upshur or Doff, talked to Marco about that, where he left that guy alive. Marco did. And because he left that guy alive in the first volume, they were able to talk to him and start their hunt towards it. If Marco would have killed that guy, Upshur and them never would have found the trail.
Multiple people have blame.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have laid it all at their feet. And if you remember in one of the volumes where I think Doff, definitely was Doff, said no story is worth dying for. And it comes back around where he actually is willing, is willing to die to protect the Hazel and her whereabouts.
I'm just thinking of Prince Robot's screen when he was like, please don't, please say no, this story will be the end of us. Please say no, the story will be the end of us.
Yeah.
That broke my heart, just that screen. And then the reporters seeing that and saying yes.
But they also said, because didn't one of them have a conversation with Petrior? We're saying, do you actually want to go through with this type of thing? Where I feel like they weren't super. You're right. I agree with that scene where he saw that and probably should have said, "I don't think you're on board." But they did bring it up again. I don't think they ignored the signs.
I don't think it was one of the reporters, though. I think it was someone else.
Oh, was it? Okay, you might be right. Yeah.
I think it might have been Squire or Alana or Hazel, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it might have been Hazel.
Yeah, it is a good point.
Oh, are you talking about the conversation between Hazel and Squire?
No, between Hazel and Petrichor, talking about
right.
abandoning her body for a Jetsamian one.
I do remember that one, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reporters, I think there's some journalistic integrity that was in play that they either failed or passed with that story.
I think that there was some journalistic idealism at play. And there was definitely a failure when their editor was getting threatened by Gale. But
Gale. I would read a side comic of Gale and the problems they have with their phone, whether it's they're iconic, Gale and that cell phone.
it takes a screenshot every time I touch it. What's going on?
I thought Robot and Marco definitely. I thought their arcs were pretty complete. Maybe Robot in a slightly different way, but Marco definitely. Doph, I don't think so, but I thought it wrapped up so well. It was done so nicely that I wasn't too upset.
I am truly sad and angry about Doph.
Yeah, I think it's gone too soon, but the way they did it, again, like I said, dying for the story. And I think it's going to be character development for Upshur for better. I don't know if that's great writing, but.
The letters for the issues had a lot of complaints about fridging. Of characters being killed to propel a male character on their journey.
Yeah. I was just thinking that.
Specifically female and queer characters.
There's a history. A lot of them were dropped again.
I think everybody's dying in this series, personally. So I give it a bit of a pass because it's not the only queer characters. It's not because most of these characters have queer aspects to them.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of death. It's been a lot of death, and a lot of it happened in this volume.
Mm-hmm. But you know who's not dead? Goose.
Hazel.
Well, yeah, of course Hazel's not dead, but Goose.
Hazel is the only one I have some confidence in not dying before the final arc of the series.
Or at least before she can write down all of her comments that she's made so far.
Yeah, just watch. It's going to be another scenario where, like, oh yeah, you died several thousand years before the start of this movie.
What was the best Gus moment? Him in a Hawaiian shirt? Him playing chicken?
Oh my goodness, he's so cute!
Or him with the pajama butt flap that fell back after tossing the fire.
Oh my goodness.
It was so good.
Him with the butt flap. But the cutest moment was him and Squire going hunting. But I think that was in the previous volume.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that creature. That's funny when Squire. I think this was this volume though when Squire offered him the bow and arrow, and Goose was like, my arms aren't really built for this."
Speaking of Squire.
Oh boy.
This kid wants to go back to the robot kingdom. Like,
He wants to see his mom.
Is it because... Oh, yeah. No, he knows his mom is dead.
Yep.
He wants to see
Visit
her
grave.
tomb.
Yeah.
And it is kind of interesting because, like, there are a lot of parental figures in this family unit, but he still has this feeling of, I guess, a void that he wants to fill.
Yeah, compared to Hazel, she at least had her parents, a mom and or two parents. It doesn't have to be a mom and dad, but two parents raised her for a certain age. From the start, he was kidnapped by some monstrous robot guy, and then was essentially raised by Goose and Robot for a little bit, and then Robot's gone for a long period.
And Friendo. Yep.
So I think it's kind of a tumultuous way to be raised, to be honest with you. I mean, I would love to be raised by Goose, but it's not. I can't imagine Goose and Robot were very copacetic during that time, or very co-parent. You know what I mean? So it was mostly by his dad. I think he was missing another familial figure, kind of, to raise him. I think it seemed traumatic. I mean, it definitely, and the fact that the Will called his dad a killer, it was like, you know, kind of puts a spin on it.
I mean, also just his name.
Squire?
Yeah. Like, that's not a very traditional robot name, I don't think.
Yeah, he even crossed it out in his note. Wrote Princeling.
Princeling. But that's kind of the thing. It's like, I don't think we get a lot of building blocks for his motivation of wanting to reclaim his title of Princeling. It kind of just was put out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's never had, like, friends. Like, Hazel at least had that dance class for a while, and she had jail. And, like, I hate to say it, but those were better environments probably than what Squire was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She also had Isabel.
Right. Just to socialize.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Isabel, too. It's just a good point to have those, just so many, as like, hectic as and dangerous as Hazel's life has been, she's had all these people that have been there for her and experiences and groups, you know.
She had the art teacher.
Yep. Oh, God bless her. She was great. I miss her already.
I miss her too. She was nice. I hope we see her again.
Me too. Me too.
One has to take Marco's place.
So wait, can I ask a question? So the Will, is he redeemable, or is from now on is he just going to be like a true villain going forward?
Oof. Redeemable? No. But can he be better? I think so.
I want him to get the tragic death that he deserves as a character.
I also want him to get the tragic death that he deserves. Like, I want him to do something redeeming with his death, but not be redeemed.
Right.
I'm not sure he's heading in a redeemed direction, really.
No.
I'm concerned that we're going to have him for the long haul.
Good.
That seems to be a distinct possibility.
It's interesting again, like he has so many like women in his life, whether it's Sophie, his sister, Lion Cat, Gwen, and now even Ianthe.
How many of them can die to give him motivation?
Well, seriously, look at his motivation. He's at the end when we see him, when he confronts them, he's skinny. He's a competent freelancer now, and he's cleaned up. He's a professional. It almost is like, I think Ianthe said when he escaped, like, oh no, I released a monster. And she did. She like kind of kick-started him out of whatever slump he's in. And now he's in a killing mode, but he's like less of a mess than he was previous. Like he's in a murderous way. But seriously, he's like even though he's been kicked out of the union, he's a great killer now.
Always was.
It's weird I'm just saying, like, women have an effect in him. The women in his life always have, better or worse. And she's part of that now.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when he showed up. He was just skinny. I'm like, oh, wait, what happened to all of that?
You mean when he showed up in his bondage gear? Yeah.
Yeah. And his cape on. He put his hat, his little hood on thing too. It was interesting.
After his journey through the center of the mind. Yeah. Everybody knows I love that trope.
Yes, we do. I think that it is pretty masterful how the creators of the series were able to take characters that, well, particularly with like the Will, at the beginning of the series, we had sympathy for him. Like we found positives in him, but as the series progressed, the opinion of this character became more and more negative. And Prince Robot was like on the opposite, where he was like seen as the villain.
I mean, he was.
Had very,
how many people did he just offhandedly kill at the start of this?
Right. Which, I mean, we're seeing the consequences, come to pass for what he did to the stock now. But at the end, in this, first half of the series, it's like, oh, his death actually, like, we're mourning his death. So that's pretty powerful character building and storytelling, I think. Yeah. Because it's actually believable. Like, it doesn't feel forced.
Also, he was consistently funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to miss his... Oh, my God. You don't even know. He was.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about a lot of these characters. It's not like just like you have one or two like token, jesters in the series. Like a lot of these characters are very funny and humorous.
Yep.
Most of them, I would say. Even like Marco and Alana when they're together, when they're doing things. I mean, they have funny moments together, outbursts. It is funny when you say that about Prince Robot too, because the last thing he theoretically does is offer to give up the whole family to say, even though Marco says he doesn't believe, he's like, you're going to save me even after I just try to give up your family. He's like, I never believe anything you say anyway. And that's again, Marco seeing the good in everyone. He doesn't,
Also, I think it was true.
It's just interesting, like to the end. Yeah. To the end, Robot kind of, I don't know. You just always wish, like you said, Panda, even though he just tried to give up Hazel, we still mourned him getting his head ripped off. Fascinating character, Robot, really.
I was really worried that Marco was going to get mad at Robot, and then he didn't, and I was happy. It was the correct reaction, because they've been living together for a long time. It showed that buildup of trust.
Yeah.
Even if it showed it by saying, I don't believe anything that you say anyway.
Trust him always to lie, so.
Okay, so I think that takes us well past our normal recording time, but we had a lot to say.
Oh boy.
Anybody got any last words before we wrap this up?
Who wants to read the novel that, or novella, that Marco was writing?
I mean, of course.
So.
When's that getting published?
Has to go through a few
They have to
drafts.
find a ghostwriter to finish it.
Who's dying next?
Petrichor.
Out of, I hope not. Out of like the main crew, you'd say.
Anybody.
Fine.
Anybody.
I don't want
Friendo.
Goose to die.
Goose can't die. He's the glue that's holding the series together.
Listen, Friendo already had a close call. They almost ate him as food. He's on the chopping block.
Oh.
Not Hazel.
Oh, there is a goose, like an official goose stuffed animal.
I saw that. Yeah.
But I have to say, I'm not. Just from the product pictures, it doesn't look that cute.
Oh.
It doesn't look like good quality. So, if anybody's listening and knows of a better one, let me know.
Did you see it at the back of the volumes?
Yeah.
That's what I saw too. I'm like, hey, should a grown man buy this?
I don't have a good guess for who's going to die next, but I'm going to say Upshur.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
When do you think Alana is going to die?
Don't think she will.
It's happening.
You
don't
think
think
she will?
Panda? Definitely. I think she definitely dies.
I think eventually this becomes completely Hazel's story, so I'm assuming at some point Alana's going to die.
Huh. Okay. I do think the grandma's going to come back. And I mean, we have a whole nother half of the series, so there are going to be new characters introduced.
We do.
And I'm looking forward to who those will be.
I'm going to say Alana dies in volume 14.
14, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. All right.
Oh,
Because we got to get a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, volume 4. We got to get a lot of her as an older adult, like her like 20s and 30s. So that's why I don't think it's going to be like volume 17. Alana dies. I think there's gonna.
Yep.
She'll be a semi-adult by the time she gets off.
You mean Hazel will be a semi-adult?
Yeah, sorry, Hazel.
Okay. So I think we should call it there. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Craig, for loaning us this corner of his media empire. Thank you, Horizon Brave, for getting it all started. Our intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Till next
See ya.
time.
So how are we going to cover the rest of this